Doctor, just a little faster.
I think it goes without saying, but I love Doctor Who. The story of a time-traveling alien who flies around in his time machine / spaceship that looks like an old British police box. Sure, it may not have had the best budget of all time, and already may have constantly swung between the campy, lighthearted humor and the dark, depressing drama, sometimes in the same episode, but there was a certain element of consistency to the character of the Doctor. Most of the time. And to celebrate the recent 50th anniversary of this show that I love so much, I figured what better way than to review one of the first attempts to bring the show back after it was cancelled in 1989. But first, I think there's some elements I should explain to the uninitiated. The Doctor is part of a race known as the Time Lords, a group of humanoid aliens that, well, monitor the laws of time. His people have an ability to cheat death by essentially turning themselves into a completely different person. A process known as regeneration, which is one of the main reasons for the show's longevity. Long story short, William Hartnell, the guy who played the first Doctor, was kinda sorta dying, so they needed a cheap way to replace the actor without pissing off the audience. And thus, regeneration was born. The show itself lasted until 1989, when the show had been cancelled after years of the head of the BBC openly trying to sabotage the show because he was a douchebag. Long story short, after this cancellation, the BBC made many attempts to revive the show. While the third attempt in 2005 was actually successful, the first two weren't so much. The first attempt was a 15-minute clusterfuck known as Dimensions in Time, and the second one was a joint production with 20th Century Fox. And I think most of you know how I feel when it comes to Fox and adaptations. But, for those of you who are new to the show, well, I'll let this gentleman explain my feelings.
Do you know what they are mostly? Bastards. Bastard-coated bastards with bastard filling.
Thanks, Perry. So, let's see just how badly they done futzed it up. This is Doctor Who, The Enemy Within. The movie opens on the planet Skaro, homeworld of one of the Doctor's most feared foes, the Daleks, with his most feared foe and rival Time Lord the Master on trial, as we hear the Daleks' famous battle cry being completely butchered. And as much as I'd like to go into some long-winded rant about how wrong this is, I just don't have the time, so I will limit my explanation to this. The Daleks' battle cry of "Exterminate" is supposed to instill a feeling of trouser-soiling fear, not pant-pissing laughter. Anyways, the Doctor narrates how the Master's final demand was that the Doctor himself be the one to return his remains to their home planet of Gallifrey, and we cut to the opening credits where... Hold on a second. Eric Roberts? Eric Roberts. The guy Hollywood usually casts as the obvious asshole villain in horrible B-movies is in a Doctor Who movie. Why do I have a feeling this is going to end badly? Anyways, after that red flag, we cut to the impressive-looking TARDIS set where the 7th Doctor, played by Sylvester McCoy, is just chillaxing and reading a book while the TARDIS flies off to Gallifrey. Okay, I should probably stop everything just to explain this really quickly. The Doctor's spaceship, known as the TARDIS, is actually bigger on the inside than the outside. And for those of you who are wondering how that's possible, I'll let 4th Doctor Tom Baker explain.
It's because insides and outsides are not in the same dimension.
Thanks, Tom. Back to the movie. Unfortunately, it goes to plaid when the Master's remains somehow futz with the TARDIS' timing mechanism, forcing him to land in 1999 San Francisco, and instantly get gunned down by a group of thugs chasing a kid named Chang Li, played by Yi Ji-tso, as he steps out of the TARDIS. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the sounds of all the 7th Doctor fanboys screaming in agony at how easily this once badass incarnation of the Doctor was taken down. The Doctor is taken to a local hospital by Eric Roberts, where he promptly dies in surgery because the doctors operating on him thought that his x-rays were mistakes. Furious, one of the surgeons, Dr. Grace Holloway, played by Daphne Ashbrook, demands to see the doctor's x-rays and realizes they may have done goofed.
For the love of God, are you a real doctor or a doctor like Dr. Pepper's a doctor?
We then cut back to Eric Roberts' house, where the Master confirms our fears and takes control of his body. Why? Okay, in my initial research, it said that one of Fox's conditions for co-producing this movie was to cast a named actor as the Master, but why Eric Roberts? Okay, I'll get more into who I think should have been cast as this character later on, but understand this. Casting Eric Roberts as such a well-known Doctor Who villain as the Master would be like casting someone like Ben Affleck as Batman. Oh yeah, that actually happened, didn't it? Anyways, while that betrayal is going on, we cut to the morgue where Will Sasso, what in the Sam Raimi directed hell are you doing in a Doctor Who movie?
Oh, we've got a nice autopsy booked for you tomorrow morning, mister. Followed by a sauna or Swedish herbal wrap. What would be your pleasure?
Have I mentioned how much a lot of people tend to hate this movie?
The answer is a lot.
So Will Sasso locks the Doctor in the fridge, where he proceeds to regenerate into his 8th incarnation, played by Paul McGann, in an admittedly well-executed scene that intercuts with scenes of the birth of Frankenstein's monster to give the uninitiated context for the regeneration process. Long story short, the Doctor promptly exits the fridge, scares the living piss out of Will Sasso, and then goes off to chew the scenery. Next morning, we get a montage of the Doctor picking his new outfit, Eric Roberts doing, stuff, and Grace deciding to quit after Dr. Kelso here decides to burn the Doctor's x-rays because
He's an asshole.
on her way out, the Doctor recognizes her from his botched surgery and convinces her to help him by, well...
It can't be.
What is this? What is it? Please. I have 2 hearts. You have to get me out of here before they kill me again.
So, Grace does what any sensible, well-written character would do and drives the obviously crazy man she's never met before to her house. Oh, and, Eric Roberts tries and fails to be intimidating. Cut to Grace's house, and she makes the exact same realization she made before, while Eric Roberts tracks down Lee and feeds him some generic bad guy crap about how the Doctor stole his ability to regenerate, and then takes him to a room called the Eye of Harmony! Just as the Doctor begins to remember who he is, and we're shown a revelation that will forever ring in infamy for fans of Doctor Who.
See that? That's the retinal structure of the human eye. The Doctor is half human.
Okay, that's gonna need some context, isn't it? Okay, how about this? Let's say the immortals from Highlander were revealed to actually be aliens exiled from a far-off planet called Zeist. You're gonna get a reaction not unlike...
Fuck Zeist and fuck Highlander the Quickening.
Yeah, and much like the planet Zeist, the idea that the Doctor's been half-human this entire time has since been wiped from canon, with producers going so far as saying a human Time Lord hybrid wouldn't even be able to regenerate due to him only having 1 heart. Anyways, back to the proverbial kick in the genitalia, and Grace has decided to call an ambulance for the crazy man, again, and after the writers decide to spit in the face of science, guess who shows up? Long story short, it takes the Doctor a good 5 minutes of movie time to realize, hey, that might be my mortal enemy. Shenanigans ensue, and Grace then gets shot with some acid by Eric Roberts. And the Doctor and Grace steal a police motorcycle and ride off to the museum where a MacGuffin atomic clock is being unveiled. The same MacGuffin atomic clock that the Doctor apparently needs to fix the TARDIS's timing mechanism. Also, it turns out that Grace is on the board of directors for said museum. Normally, I'd make a joke about how convenient all of this is, but the Doctors always seem to have this knack of showing up in the right place at the right time. Like, say, landing in Pompeii the day Mount Vesuvius erupts. Or visiting 1930s New York, where an army of Daleks just happens to be kidnapping homeless people to turn into soldiers. Or even arriving on a spaceship replica of the Titanic, where its dying captain, with just 2 days to retirement, is paid to crash the ship into Earth so that the cyborg ex-CEO of the company that owns the vessel can extract his poorly written revenge on his board of directors for forcing him to step down. Yeah, that last one actually happened. Long story short, the Doctor and Grace are able to get in, grab an MacGuffin chip they need, and get back to the TARDIS without a hassle. The Doctor is able to close the Eye of Harmony, but it's revealed that it's been open for too long, so he decides to try and hotwire the TARDIS to take him back to before the eye was opened, but is interrupted by... Yep, it turns out that goo Eric Roberts spat on Grace's arm was some kind of mind-controlling Deus Ex Machina. It's Doctor Who. They've done weirder, like Rhino Police aliens, or a lady who was nothing but a flap of skin, or even cabbage people with vaginas for faces. Again, I'm not kidding about that last one. Anyways, the Doctor wakes up later to find Eric Roberts...
I always dress for the occasion.
taking away whatever menace was left in the character. Roberts orders Grace to put the torture device from Clockwork Orange on the Doctor, and then does what every cliché villain does in the end.
He starts monologuing.
He goes on to monologue about how he wasted all 13 of his lives trying to get his revenge on the Doctor, which causes Lee to realize that he'd been lied to and refuse to help open the eye. So Roberts kills him, releases Grace from her possession, and forces her to open the eye instead, which begins transferring the Doctor's remaining regenerations to him. While this is going on, Roberts is conveniently unable to move, so the Doctor orders Grace to hotwire the TARDIS, as that's the only way to close the eye and stop Roberts from taking his body. Luckily, Grace is able to quickly fix the TARDIS and close the eye. Unfortunately, just as she unhooks the Doctor, Eric Roberts proves just how much of a sore loser he is by throwing her off the balcony, killing her. Luckily, while trying to kill the Doctor as well, he's sucked into the Eye of Harmony as it closes, where I'm sure we'll never see him again. Well, at least until 2007. After that, we roll the epilogue. The TARDIS decides to bring Lee and Grace back to life, and the Doctor drops them off before going off on adventures that most of the audience will never be privy to. I'm serious, until recently, this was Paul McGann's only on-screen appearance as the Doctor. I say until recently because about a week before they released the 50th anniversary episode itself, the BBC released a 7-minute short starring Paul McGann that leads into the anniversary itself, and, well, it ties up a few loose ends by showing what led to the 8th Doctor's regeneration, as well as giving some more context to the ending of Season 7. Albeit controversial context for sure. But I'm not going into that due to spoilers. As for this movie and whether or not Fox screwed it up, well, they didn't all that badly, and I actually kind of liked it. Sure, the writing seems like someone paid off the plot convenience fairy. The revelation that the Doctor is half human still rings in infamy with fans of the classic series despite obvious retcons, and the casting of Eric Roberts as the Master was head-scratching at best and face-palming at worst. Seriously, off the top of my head, I can name like 3 actors who probably would have been a better choice for the Master. Tim Curry, Anthony Michael Head, hell, even Ben Kingsley would have at least looked menacing. But on the flip side, Paul McGann was easily the best part of this movie as he was able to capture the essence of the Doctor. The rest of their cast did their job, somewhat. And Grace at least served her purpose of being a kind of surrogate for those who have never watched the show before. And quite frankly, there have been a lot worse episodes of Doctor Who. Episodes involving alien tourists visiting Wales, every surviving incarnation of the Doctor being caught in a time loop caused by another rival Time Lord known as the Ronnie, and even a Dalek shoving a man up its ass for science. You have no idea how much I wish I was making that last one up. Yeah, until next time, I'm the Hipster Ninja, and, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.